Reality is a perspective, right? I just showed you a picture of a dog. Some people might have thought, well, this is going to be a post or a video about a dog. But what our reality is defined by what we perceive things to be. I look at my life and I look at the different things that have happened within my life, and I can be with a handful of people. And that handful of people, we can all be experiencing the same exact thing, or so you think. And we talk about it maybe later on that day, maybe years later. We talk about an event that we experienced together. And it still today blows my mind how different our perspective of that event was. And, or anything in life. It can be things from your childhood. I've read a lot of things lately in my life that talk about the fact that the stories that we tell others or the stories that we tell ourselves about an event isn't necessarily how it even happened. It is our perspective of it. Our perspective is affected by our mood at the time, about what's going on around us in our careers, in our businesses, in our personal lives. It affects how we look and how we, create the story of what it is that we've seen. And that perspective is easily seen differently. You can have a perspective that is seen differently by somebody that comes from a different childhood, the way that they were raised. You can have a perspective of something that is interpreted differently just because of the career they're in. Again, their business. So many things sway our perspective of what it is that we see. Our reality is created by our mind, the 6 inches between it. And those of you that have watched my videos before or listened to my podcasts or even know me have heard me say before that, don't let other people's perspective become your reality. Because guess what? It is exactly that. It is what story they've told themselves, and you could be asking them advice, and you take that as gospel or the word or the truth. But however, that advice or that information or story they're telling you is their perspective. So I'm not saying that their perspective is, doesn't have any validity. What I'm saying is listen to people, take what they're saying, not as gospel, take it as information, and go out and do the groundwork and figure out if what they're telling you is true, partially true, or 100% bullshit, and design your own perspective. Because perspective doesn't always necessarily mean the truth. It doesn't always mean that it is something that is, again, something that is valid. Because, again, don't forget, it could be something that is days, months, years, decades later. And I've even had those conversations. My kids will have a perspective or a story about something that happened in their childhood. And I know it to not be 100% true, or I know it to be 100% false, or somewhere in between. The reality is, though, is they look at that situation based on their mental age, their ability to be a critical thinker. And this goes all the way up into adulthood. You can have somebody that's in their 50s have a different perspective of something than somebody that's in their 30s, and they can both be standing there looking at the same thing, and they'll walk away and they'll tell the story of that event, and it's completely different. It's completely skewed based on their environment, based on where their 6 inches is between their ears, and that other person is going to have the exact same thing. And eventually they could meet up into a circumstance where they're talking about that event, that circumstance, and their stories will be completely conflicting, yet they were both there. Why? Because, again, our lives we interpret things differently. We create a story within our 6 inches between our ears in our mind that we believe to be true. And they've done studies and proven that, again, many people's stories of what they tell or what they think about an event are only partially true. The rest is exaggerated. The rest is flavored to be who they are due to the way they grew up, due to the way that they currently are, due to the environment they're currently living. But just realize that perspective isn't always reality. It is that person's reality, but it is not necessarily the truth. So always ensure that you listen to people, but with a grain of salt, you go out and look for the truth. You go find out, research the information yourself so that you make a decision based on what they've told you, plus as well your own perspective to come to some realization of truth or reality. Again, one thing does not make something the reality. A little bit of information, a little bit of thought process, some critical thinking, and some ability to sit and actually analyze things based on information can help you come to the closest truth that you ever will, because sometimes it's hard to come to any form of 100% truth when it comes to events or circumstances. Even you look back at history and you look at people that you'll read an article or something that somebody supposedly did something 50 years, 100 years, maybe a couple centuries ago, and your reality is skewed by what you're reading, but yet you weren't necessarily at that event. Now, if you can read 5, 6 different recounts of that event, you're going to be able to come up with a better reality of what happened, as long as those 6 to 8 people didn't coerce together to write that article or to bring you that information or truth. I hope this makes sense. DM me, drop me a comment below. What do you think? Do you think that everybody has their own reality, or do you think that we have all the same reality? You already know how I feel. I look forward to talking to you tomorrow. God bless you all. Peace out, and stay out of trouble and stay safe.